Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today we have a real treat. We are talking to Serena Valentine, who has a brand new Disney book out that I'm super excited about. Let's just bring her right in.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. I've been really excited to talk to you because I had the opportunity to read Cold Hearted in advance, but you tell us a little bit about it. We'll show an image of the book because everyone needs to check this book out. Tell us the synopsis of it.
Well, this book starts off after the events of the Cinderella story, after Cinderella has gone away with her prince and has left her wicked stepsisters, Anastasia and Drusilla, and Lady Tremaine in her old chateau. And now she's Queen Cinderella and has heard wild rumors that her old chateau is being haunted by the ghosts of her, her stepmother and stepsisters. Turns out they're very much alive, but they're just trapped in the chateau. So she pleads with Fairy Godmother to help her stepsisters because they're in a horrible situation. And the Fairy Godmother refuses. So the entire story is the Fairy Council reading over Lady Tremaine's story to see if Anastasia and Drusilla are worthy of fairy magic and helping them through their bad situation.
Yeah. Well, and something that I felt was really interesting about this is, we hear in Disney, Disney shows and everything or books about the villain, but this really gives us insight into the villain that I never even considered before.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of inspirations for the book. There's a little bit of Jane Austen in there. There's a bit Grey Gardens, and a bit of like Miss Havisham from Great Expectations. I really wanted to tell the story of like what her life was like before she married Cinderella's father, and what her relationship was like with her daughters, and then take us to the point of getting together with this man and coming to a magical land and seeing a magical place like from a person's point of view who doesn't have magic.
Yeah. And something I also really enjoyed was, I had never considered before Lady Tremaine's backstory. And so hearing that she was from London,
Right.
which is a total normal land, and then suddenly she's in the magical kingdoms, and
Right.
that's a big change.
Yeah, it made sense to me that she wouldn't be from a magical land because she doesn't have magic powers. And certainly not everybody who lives in the magic kingdom, the many kingdoms have magical powers, but most of the villains do. So I thought it was interesting to have her start in London. All the books that I'm doing right now, the trilogy that's happening right now, all of the villains are based in London. We know that Cruella de Vil was based in London and Lady Tremaine. And the next villain that's coming after Lady Tremaine is also based in London.
Yeah. And, you have, this book just barely came out, Cold Hearted, but here we show you have a whole series of information on the villains. Tell us more about this.
Well, it's a series of books, all telling the story, the various stories from the Disney pantheon. I need to start over again. Sorry. It's a series of books featuring the various villains from the Disney pantheon, told from their point of view. So for the most part, I talk about what happened to the various characters before we see the events that happened in the original films. And sometimes if the villain survives. Now, not all the villains survive to the end of their tales. Like there's Lady Tremaine and there's Cruella de Vil. So sometimes we explore what happens like after the events of the film. But all of the stories are connected together by an ongoing storyline, which features the Odd Sisters, a trio of identical witches who meddle in all of these villains' lives, either trying to help them or trying to bring them to become villains.
Yeah. And so Cold Hearted is the book that just barely came out, but you also have a graphic novel coming soon too, right?
I do, yeah. It's the graphic novel adaptation of Evil Fang, which is Cruella de Vil's story, which is, oh, let's see if I can get that on there. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the artwork is beautiful. It's amazing. It's coming out September 28th.
Awesome. And that's September 28th, 2021, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's coming out fairly soon.
Awesome. And so when you were working on Cold Hearted, were there any challenges that you ran into creating her backstory, or was it, just kind of this would happen and the story took on its own life?
I spend a lot of time with the characters before I sit down to write their stories, and I plan their stories well in advance because it is a series and all the stories connect. And so I had more time with Lady Tremaine's story than I've had with some of the other villains, because I was originally going to have her story come out sooner, but decided to wait. So I didn't find it particularly challenging, except the fact that the Corella's book was probably the most successful of the series. And so I had this sense of feeling like I needed to live up to the previous book. So there was a little bit of that. But, yeah. But in terms of like characterization and story, like it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, maybe Cinderella was a little bit challenging because I wanted to, I didn't want to make her the bad guy of the story, but I did want her to just be kind of like the precocious, honest young person who doesn't realize what they're saying is actually hurting, their stepmother. So that was a little bit challenging.
Yeah. And I think the way that you put Cinderella in the story is kind of this almost, I don't know that ignorant is necessarily the right word, but where she was just kind of not informed and just innocent, but you're right. Things that people do can hurt even if they don't mean it to.
Right. No, I don't think that she was coming from a hurtful place at all. I think she was coming from a place where her father was very manipulative and feeding her what he wanted, her to say to her stepmom to hurt her, because unfortunately Cinderella's father was a horrible person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this was really something, I mean, honestly, I love your book. So I think everyone needs to check it out because it was so good. But one of the many things I liked about it was this kind of backstory on her father, because we don't get that really anywhere else. Like, he's kind of such a minimal character in all of the other stories,
right?
But we get a real insight to him. And honestly, like, he kind of messed up Lady Tremaine and her daughters, and they had pure intentions in the beginning.
They did, yeah. I mean, Lady Tremaine thought this was going to be her happily ever after. She's at, a party in the country with her best friend, and she gets introduced to this dashing, beautiful man. And he, asks her to marry him, whisks her off to Magical Kingdom, and she has a wretched time. And her daughters have a wretched time. And all she wants to do is get herself and her daughters out of this place. She just wants to go home. And that's what the story is about, like her not belonging and feeling isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And this is, like we mentioned before, this is a series, but I personally had not read the previous books in the series. So definitely you can read this book, Cold Hearted, without having read the others. And you've got another one coming, I mean, next year as well, right?
Yeah, we have another. I've told readers so far that it is going to have a male villain this time, and he is based in London. But that's all I've said pretty much so far. Everyone loves their clues, but there's a lot of clues in Cold Hearted. I think that readers will figure out who it is. They always have their theories, and I love hearing them. So if you have theories, you can share them. I won't deny or acknowledge if you're right or not.
Yeah. And I think something else that is really cool about you as an author is you personally engage with your readers and you're on social media where they can learn more about you and engage with you, right?
Yeah, I love speaking with my readers. I'm really lucky. I have like the best readers that you could possibly ask for. And they're all so nice to each other. We have like a nice little community on Facebook, and, I chat with people on Instagram and on Twitter. And, in the past, I would just like release day would just be me in front of my computer talking to the readers all day, which is probably what I'm going to do for the next few hours in between like interviews. Because I woke up this morning with all these like happy book birthday messages, and people post pictures of, we've made a tradition that every year people post pictures of themselves with their books, and they're allowed to like post it on my Facebook and, on Twitter. I'm like, please tag me. I want to see you with the books. And it's exciting. It's just as exciting as the first time, that I published a book, even though I'm like 8 books in, I'm thrilled like every release day. And I'm so thankful to, my readers and all the support that they've given me over the years. Like I wouldn't be writing the books unless it were for them. They keep buying them and they keep asking for more. And it's my pleasure to do it. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to be buying more too. So I encourage our viewers to check out Serena Valentino. I said your name wrong. Sorry. Serena Valentino.
Thank you.
Check out her books. They're fantastic. And so we've showed a couple banners here of where you can find her online. And if you stay for a couple more seconds, we're going to show you everything all together. But thank you so much for being here with us, Serena.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. I had a really great time.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.